there, crafty friends. This is Tina from the Scrappin Rabbit, and today I'm going to show you how to make shaker tags. Now, these tags here I made recently for the Craftin Desert Divas January release, and these are for Valentine's Day. The tags I'm going to make today are for birthday, but I wanted to go ahead and do a tutorial. I had a lot of questions about these tags, and Karen wanted to learn how to make them, and so Karen, I'm dedicating this video to you. So these tags were made using the new Craftin Desert Divas dies, and these are the two dies, and they sit right in top of each other like that. And so as you can see, they're shakers. So I'm going to show you guys how to put together something like this. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I used was the Celebration Word Art stamps for my background paper. Now I used this Valentine's Day one for stamping the background, but you can use pattern paper if you like. And today I'm going to use this happy birthday stamp, and I already did stamp it all out for you guys just to kind of give you an idea what I did. I took the stamp and I put it on my glass block, and then I used different inks to create like a rainbow pattern on here. The next thing I did was I cut out some white backings to go on the back side of my paper just to give it a little bit more reinforcement, and then so that I can also stamp to and from and have a nice back to have on the back of the tag to write on. So something that I did want you to keep in mind is that whenever you're dealing with a shaped die, they're not necessarily always 100% symmetrical. So what that means is when I cut this tag out and I go to match it, it's only going to match up one way. So if I flip it and it's the wrong way, it's not going to line up perfectly. Okay, so now I have the backs of my tags, and I can go ahead and glue these together. So now to do the frame for the shaker in both the cardstock and the foam, you're going to need to align these dies together so that they are in their nested form. So now here's a little trick from my experience of when you're doing little frames. You always want to make sure that you keep the dies in line the same way each time. And so what I try to do is I try to follow how the manufacturer had them put together. And so as you can see on this side, there are two little nubs that were connected here, and on this side there was just one. So when I go to align these, I want to make sure that the one with the single nub is lined up, and then the one with the double is lined up. Because if you flip these backwards and forwards, like I said, they're not 100% symmetrical, so you might get some uneven cuts, and when you go to line up your foam and when you go to line up your cardstock, they might not align correctly. So ask me how I know this, because trial and error. So what I do is I'm going to do a pink frame, which I did with cardstock, and then so I'm going to want to do one with some pink foam. You can use foam tape, but when your frame is this tiny, it might get difficult to get the foam tape in there on all these little curves and swirls. So I do find using the foam does help with these thinner strips, and it helps you to have a solid pocket for your sequins so that they don't slip out of the sides. Okay, and then I try to match my foam with the cardstock as much as possible. That may not always work, and sometimes you can just do the white, but I find looking at the sides, like for this one, you don't really see the tape and all the different colors. It kind of just blends in the pink, and I feel like it gives a nicer finished look. So once you have your cardstock and your foam frames all completed, you are going to also need to do your acetate. Now I use this acetate alternative. I find that this is friendlier to my pocketbook, and you get a whole stack of them, and it cuts nice and easy, and it works perfect for shaker cards. So I'm going to go ahead and use my big die and cut out 3 of these Duralar films for the front of my shaker. And just as a side note, all of these pages come with the lining of this paper, and I saved the paper for future cuts. That way if I go to run it through my machine, I don't have to worry about it getting scratched or picking up threads from other papers, and I could just line it up like that and then put my die and have it protected on both sides. So just a side note. Okay, so once you have your paper and your foam, and then you have your backing, which I stamped on the back, you can go ahead and glue the foam to the tag. Now, the foam flattens and it stretches, so it doesn't line up perfectly anymore. And so you're going to see that it sticks in a little bit, and it might not be exactly even. But that's okay. What you want to do is you want it to line up on the inside and not care so much about whether it lines up on the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue this, and I'm going to stretch it out a little bit so that some of the foam is hanging out along the edge. And it won't be that much. It'll be more like this much. And then I'll go ahead and I'll take my scissors and I'll trim that foam around for a nice fit. Because if you crowd it into the center, what's going to happen is the foam is going to peek through your paper, and then if it's not an exact match, you're going to have that. So now we need to glue the acetate piece to our frame. So what I did was I just flipped it over, and I know that this is going to sit on top like that. And I just have this white sheet of paper because any residual, anything that you have on your mat is going to end up sticking and showing up on your acetate. So in order to keep it clean, I'm just trying to have my work area as clean as possible. And so it's going to glue on just like that. And instead of using liquid glue, since this is just going to be the front of our shaker and none of this, the sequins aren't going to be able to leak through, so you don't have to have adhesive covering 100%. I just like to use my ATG gun because it's cleaner. I don't know, for me this works out better. So I just put on a few pieces of adhesive to get that acetate on there. Once you have your acetate glued to your frames and you have your shakers ready to be filled, I use this powder tool, especially if you're going to use like that liquid glue, because it definitely leaves a sticky residue. And I bought that because I heard everybody talking such high praise about that, and I don't know. This has not been my favorite glue. It leaves a lot of stick and ick behind and sticks to your fingers, and I don't know. I think I like my Scotch quick dry better, and this dries so much quicker and you still have time to play with it and stuff, where this one, it does take a lot longer to dry. And like I said, it really leaves like a sticky film, and I actually cut my thumb trying to get the glue off of my scissors. And these are actually sticky resistant, but I went like this to get the glue off, and then I cut my thumb. Silly me. But anyways, use my powder tool to get as much in there as I can. I'm going to be filling some sequins in there, and I'm going to use the sequins from the January release. They are the little hearts, and they're just so darn cute. And what I like about these is that they're pretty flat, and so if you're using really chunky sequins, you might want to do a double layer of this foam so that the sequins actually shake around. These will shake around just fine with just one layer of foam. And so I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of hearts into each one, and then we'll have to adhere our acetate covered frames over to the top. Okay, and then we're almost done. Okay, so once you have added as many sequins as you want to try and pat it down so that they're flat and that there's no little mountains in there. And what I find works best for me is that I know that my ATG gun adhesive sticks really well to this plastic. With the liquid glue, it takes a little while, it slides around. And so before it becomes a permanent adhesive, you have a little bit of play with it, but at the same time, you don't want it to dry separate from the foam. So what I've come to do as my thing is I will, first of all, make sure that you have this lined up so that you know what is the top and what is the bottom. And then so I'll go ahead and flip to the back side. And as you can see, I have that paper on there for protection. And I'm just going to add a little bit of this ATG in the four corners here where I have room where the tape runner actually will fit real nice. And I'll do that in 4 places so that that way it'll grab hold of that foam a lot better while I'm waiting for this liquid glue to dry. And so I'm going to go ahead and try this Tombow glue again. And I'm just going to add some dots. I do want the glue everywhere, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my finger and spread it around because I don't want puddles of it oozing out into the front of my shaker. So I'm just trying to spread it around and use the minimum that I need. So like I said, it's not oozing. And I'm not an expert with glue. In fact, I tend to make a big mess with it. But the key is that you want this stuck all the way around. So you want to make sure that you have the adhesive on all sides. And any little opening, those sequins will tend to peek through. So you want to make sure that they are in there good. Wipe my finger off here. And then I'm just going to lay it down. And the sequins will probably jump right up to the plastic because of static. And I have not been able to find a way to prevent that from happening. But if you push that down, make sure that it's all lined up nice and neat. And that glue's still a little wet, so I would recommend not moving your shaker just yet, because what could happen is the sequins could stick to the side. So once you have it all lined up, you can go, I just stick a block on there to kind of just press it down and help it dry a little bit. Okay, so now that we have our shakers done, I want to go ahead and make the bows. So the bows that I used for my little mice are from Cricut's 3D bows. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let me show you some exciting news for anybody who uses Design Space, because I don't know how long this has been there, but I just noticed it for the first time today. So when I was cutting out the ruffle part of my bow, so this is how it kind of lays out. I don't know if you could see it. So it just kind of sticks it there, and you use a lot of paper for these. And I wasn't too concerned about it because I was just going to use white. But with the pattern part, I only had one 6x6 sheet of this doodlebug paper that I wanted to use for the bows. And so I was kind of in a panic. Well, how do I print out or cut out 3 of that pattern on the 6x6 sheet? So I went in and I unattached the grouping of the 3, and then when I went to the cut page and I clicked on to move things around, a little rotation symbol came up. So I was able to rotate these guys and move them around, all fit on my 6x6 sheet of paper. I was so excited. I don't know how long that feature's been live, but that's the first time that I've ever seen the little rotation symbol on the screen. And so I rotated these guys and I stuck them around. So like I said, I was able to get 3 different cuts for this bow on this one 6x6 sheet. So that's exciting news. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Okay, so once you have all your little bow parts put together, some of you may have dies. I did this with the Cricut, like I said, but I just wanted to give you a quick tip for those of you who have never done these 3D type of bows. I just wanted to share with you, before you go to put your bow together, if you get something, like I use one of my paintbrushes, and if you just kind of pull in like this, rub up your paper, it actually will help you to curl the paper so that you don't get any folds in there that you don't want, and creases that'll end up ruining your bow. So doing that helps you to make it round, so when you do go to put it together, it stays up and it stays fluffy without any bent lines in it. Before you can adhere your bows, you're going to want to add your ribbon. And so I'm just going to use this white ribbon because there's so much color on these, And then the bow has such a pattern on it that I couldn't really find a ribbon that worked well, that was in a pattern without it clashing. So you're just going to get a hole puncher. And this one here, it's not like your standard notebook hole punch. It's actually a smaller hole. And I don't remember how big this hole is, but it's a Fisker's punch, and it really comes in handy for poking holes in projects where you're going to add your tags or add your ribbon for a tag. This will punch right through the acetate and your cardstock. And once you have the ribbon in there, it'll seal that hole so none of your sequins will fall out. And so you just take your ribbon, and it's a small hole, so you're going to have to pinch it a little bit to get it small enough to go into the little hole. And then pull it through. There you have your ribbon. And then just kind of pull it taut. And then now you can tie it around whatever package you want to adhere this to. So I'll just leave it open like that until I'm ready to use it for something. And then if you have frayed edges, you can just trim them like that. So there's your ribbon, and then your bow is going to go on top right here, and it'll adhere like that. Now I have the bows adhered, and you can stop at any point with decorating these. It just depends on how detailed you want them. But for those of you who know me, you know how much I love my little critters, and so I had to go ahead and color up these cute little stamps. And so these are from the Dear Friends Craftin Desert Divas stamp set. And this is Hippo Birdie. I've never used the hippo before. So I colored these little cuties up, and I fussy cut them out. And so now I'm going to add them to my little tags, because I feel like I needed something more. But if you wanted to go masculine, obviously you would do without the bow, without the critter, and then you could stamp something a little bit more masculine colors. But this just goes to show you all the different layers that you can do. So I'm just going to use some foam tape and tape on my little critters, and then they'll be very similar to the two Valentine ones that I made. So here they are, the completed shaker tags using the Craftin Desert Divas dies and stamps. So Karen, I hope that you watch this, and I hope that you will make something and post it in the gallery for all of us to see. And I want to thank everyone for watching, and if you can, please give my video a thumbs up. I hope to do more videos now that I'm back into crafting after taking a few months off. So I hope to see your projects, and I hope I gave you some inspiration, and happy crafting, everybody. Thanks. Bye.